afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and or girls. Welcome to Fantasy Football Harsh Reality. Joining me right now is the man, the myth, the legend, and a heck of a great guy. I'm happy. I feel very fortunate to call him. I like to think of you as a friend.
A friend?
A friend,
for sure.
a friendly acquaintance at least.
No, for sure, friend. I didn't not enough of a friend to send you an anniversary gift, which I believe is close.
No, it's in May actually. Is when we.
What? I thought it was during the season.
I
guess we are planning for the season. I don't know. This is how far back I get mixed up now. It doesn't even matter. Wasn't that a year ago? Like I was just thinking when I was coming on, I'm like, is this like, I go, didn't he get married in December? I go, I think he did. I was like very confident of it.
You really were. You delivered
really
that with confidence. Like the people that played Jared Goff last week, they played him with confidence, and it blew up. Right. But man, you are now this season. You're now, you're the man over there at NFL Fantasy Live. Is it a lot? Is it a lot more than it was before? Do you feel like you're carrying a bigger load, or is it still just as fun as it's always been?
No, it's still fun. Like it's never not going to be fun.
Right.
You do notice, I think because our staff's a little bit like you might not notice it from a viewer standpoint. I mean, everybody likes Graham and people knew Fabiano and everything like that. So they notice when people aren't there, but then you see new people. You see Kimmy Chex coming on.
Yeah. Kimmy Chex is a revelation.
She's so
I'm like, where did they find her? Let me tell you something. If I'd met her at a bar and she looked the way that she looked and started talking about fantasy football, I would have asked her to marry me right then.
Right. And yeah, it's jarring of somebody so young and so good at this. Like for us, we grew up doing comedy and whatever. Like you were like, if you could think of yourself, think of the stuff you were saying at open mics at 22 or 24. I forget how old she is. She's younger than 25. And you think of like your open mic material at age 24.
Oh.
And then this young lady is on a network television show crushing it. You're like, I kind of hate myself.
Yeah, listen, even as a almost 50-year-old man playing fantasy football, she makes me hate myself because she's so intelligent. Anyways, kudos to you guys for picking her up. But you do say the way people knows who's gone. For me, it's Matt Money Smith. I loved him as a host. I love his sarcasm and his knowledge. I mean, he wasn't just a broadcaster. He really knew what he was doing to the point where I think he won you guys' expert league a couple times, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm sure. I think there was for a while. I don't have the trophy on me, unfortunately. Colleen Wolfe has it in her domicile. And so I won 4 times. I think there was a time, and I think maybe Fab snuck in there one time where Money and I had we had every slot on this trophy. And so
alternated between you two.
Yeah, and as a rivalry standpoint, I'm glad that he's gone. So it makes it a little easier. Although this year's been a difficult one for me. My 2 running backs that I was super proud of, Christian McCaffrey, which is obvious, but I had DeAndre Swift. And I'm like, I'm set up for the playoffs. Well, if I could get to the playoffs, I'd be looking pretty good. But yeah, the thing with Money is even after 6 years, 7 years, I forget how long we were on the show together.
Yeah.
He still intimidated me. Like it was still I remember.
I think it was the way he talked too. He had that deep kind of menacing voice. But I mean, I really enjoyed him on the show, but
it was, you know what it's like? It's like being a pitcher and you can never sneak a pitch back past him. And you can never get anything past him. Right. And there was one time I said something where I wish I hadn't said it. And you're like, I hope Money doesn't pick up on that. And he does. And he's like, nope, you're absolutely wrong. I go, I know, I shouldn't have said that. Like, I'm sorry, Matt.
I know what that's like. There's a guy in my league, because sometimes I'll make like dumb drunk moves in the middle of the night, because there's a guy on the free agent, somebody just stunk, so I'll drop him and pick, just dumb thing. And of course, I'm doing this hoping no one sees it. And there's always one guy who will notice that. And it's always somebody different, but because I have a comedians league. Right. And so they're all very observant. So someone always notices every little thing. Don't get away with a thing in that league.
That's the truth. You know what? That's such a huge thing in fantasy that I always try to tell some of the first timers or somebody who's new to fantasy. One of the great things that you can do to improve your roster every time is playing the secondary waiver wire market. Like this
Yeah.
week, so many people are going to drop the Cleveland Browns this week. They're going to drop their defense and special teams because they've played them the last 2 weeks because they've had great matchups. They scored nothing last week against the Jags, but they had 2 really good matchups. Now they've got the Titans and the Ravens the following week. So people are probably going to drop them, not realizing that in weeks 15 and 16, they're going to be playing the Jets and the Giants, which you cannot ask
Boy,
for
you
a better
can't.
matchup.
Boy, that's it. That's a hot take right there.
So unless you have the Steelers or some defense like that you know you're going to play no matter what, you got to go pick up the Browns. So watch the person in your league. If they drop the Browns, try not to burn your waiver priority unless you absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Save it for picking up for the Browns when they go on the secondary market, because that is the thing. And of course, comics would be good at that because there's nothing you can get past them.
No, they're too strong. And personally, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel that way because a lot of people have dropped the Tampa Bay defense because they struggled a little bit with some tough matchups here towards the end, but they've played 12 games in a row. They have a bye week now, and then they have a pretty easy stretch after that with, I think, Minnesota, Denver, and somebody else, Cincinnati maybe. So they have 3 very plus matchups, and a lot of guys are dumping them. So I felt that way about the Tampa Bay defense. Very similar.
Yeah, for sure. Very good. Yeah, very good call.
Now, did you think we would make it this far in the season?
I kind of weirdly, I thought the NFL was going to do it. I thought that perhaps there was a thing when the Titans in that Steelers game.
Oh, yeah.
Was kind of getting sideways, but listen, we're trying to do our best. I think everybody's trying to do our best, and I think that we're trying to give as much normalcy as possible, trying to be as responsible as possible. And it looked ugly for the Broncos having to go and play with Hinton, and having a game on Wednesday afternoon might have been less than ideal, but we're starting week 13 without having a major significant roster or having to postpone for 2 weeks. Or
an actual cancellation. There hasn't been an actual, this is going to be a week 18 situation.
Right. And we saw that in baseball too, that with the St. Louis Cardinals were in a spot where they almost started forfeiting games. And I think they might have not made up some games or something like that, but it looked like it was dire for them too. And then they kind of were able to rally up and finish their season, and they got all the way through the World Series. So I'm hopeful that the NFL is going to be able to do that as well, selfishly because of my employment. But I think they've been doing a good job. I think too, listen, I'm going to be honest. I don't want somebody watching this being like, this guy's full of ass. He works for the league.
I get it.
Of course I feel this way.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. But I think fans are like that too. We kind of want to keep going. Let's see what happens. Let's see, it's not a perfect situation, and it never was going to be, but I think that they've done a pretty nice job getting to week 13. So I'll carry the water for them. I got broad shoulders. I can carry the water for the NFL. I'm not afraid to do it. So.
I tell you what, you're definitely the funniest one on the show. That's for sure, man. Your analogies and metaphors are always and very tied to very movie based. Yeah. I've noticed television and movie based, especially with television, a lot of Friends you referenced.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of strong and it's almost like that's how you know your Gen X is by the references. And the references you use, I'm like, oh yeah, we're in the same age category.
It is a lot of the because you can tell the music with the Beastie Boys. I'll be using a lot of Scott Rayner, the original drummer of Blink-182. I love to throw that one out a lot. I was on with the Sklar brothers. I actually went deep. I had to go way back to think of it. I'm using Eddie Van Halen analogy, which it must have been one of my sisters or something like that. But anyways, I try because I feel I'm in that 90s range, or Friends and Scrubs, I think are my go. Currently right now, because they put Scrubs on Prime Video, I'm watching Scrubs all over again. Like, I know everybody loves like the Queen's Gambit or whatever, or The Boys or all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. I'm watching Scrubs. I'm laughing my ass off.
I'm reliving those hospital hijinks from the 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, interesting little sidebar. I auditioned for the movie Garden State, which was, what's his name?
No way.
Yeah,
Zach
it was
Braff, yeah.
Yeah, Zach Braff's big director. He wrote it, he directed it, and everything. So I auditioned for this role, and I read with Zach, and we have this great. I mean, he's dying. The crowd, you know, the casting, everybody, they're all done. They love, you know, we have this incredible chemistry. Everything goes great. I don't get the role. Of course, it went so good.
Who gets it? Who gets it over you?
Yeah, I don't know. Some dude in the scene that ended up. You have to watch the deleted scenes to see it, because the guy they used blew it. But like 2 weeks later, I'm at a restaurant in Manhattan, and I see the casting director, and she's like, "How did that shoot go with Zach Braff?" And I go, "I didn't get the role," and she goes, "You didn't? You were supposed to." No. I'm not joking. She said, "No, you know, like in your mind, you imagine that that's the case, that, you know." Yeah. But to have the casting director say it to your face,
what happens? Like did they lose your number?
I think maybe they gave it to one of his buddies. Yeah, I think he ended up giving it to a buddy that he knew. And not that listen, that's the way, you know, entertainment works. You know, I get it. It was a non-consequential role. It was a single scener. It wasn't a big deal. But I think that's probably what happened. It's probably
that is a big deal. Now I hate Scrubs.
That's it. I'm done. I'm watching the Queen's Gambit.
Yeah.
I was surprised that I was concerned that because, you know, we can't make up games. NFL can't make up games the way that baseball can. So right. I was worried. In my league, in my comedians league, because that's the one I'm the commissioner of, I told them, I said, listen, week 10 is the line. If we make it past week 10 and then it cancels, the ranking will be first, second, third. If we don't, we just refund all the money and we punt. You know,
roll it over to next year. You're fine.
Exactly. That would have, you know, probably come up. So, you know, that was the plan. Now, let me ask you this. Can anything stop the Madden curse?
Oh, I don't think so.
I mean, look what it's done to Lamar. It seems like, I mean, it seems like the realest thing in fantasy football is the Madden curse.
But you have to understand, you don't get the Madden cover for being terrible. It's your optimal thing. Like it's your number one, like it's your top season. Like it's going to be the season that you look back. I mean, obviously for some people like Peyton Hillis, it's going to be the only season you have. But for a lot of these guys, they're coming off their career year. It's like anybody who appeared in the show Scrubs. They're like, oh, it's the Scrubs curse because they've never gone on to do anything better since then. The Friends curse. It's like, yeah, but Friends was on the air for 10 years. Like, is that really a curse that you're living in?
I'll take it. Right.
Forever. Like, it's fine. I'm sorry that Mr. Sunshine didn't work out, but Matthew Perry is still doing very well for himself. You know, it's like, it's one of those things. And so I just think that it's the circumstance of like, it is going to be so hard to repeat. Like, even think about when Peyton Manning had 50 touchdown passes in a season, or 55, excuse me. He comes back the next year, and I believe it was 38, which is an incredible year.
Right. Still a great year.
It is almost 20 touchdown passes less than what he had the previous season. So it's always going to be like, oh, this was terrible. And I think a lot of people went into this year looking at what Lamar Jackson did and just trying to replicate the magic. And it's like, it reminds me of something of Dean Martin, what he said in the original Ocean's 11. He's like, if you want to try to capture lightning in a bottle again, I'm not going to stop you. Stop trying to capture yesterday. And that's just kind of the thing that was happening with Lamar. Like, it just wasn't going to be that good. Instead of looking forward and saying, who is going to be this year's Lamar Jackson? Should we draft Kyler Murray?
Kyler Murray, right.
Over the last couple of weeks hasn't been as good. But looking at other places.
He's banged up, though. I think that shoulder thing might be worse than they're saying.
Oh, I think it is definitely.
Right? Because I mean, you don't run if you got a shoulder thing because they're going to hit your shoulder, you know? Yeah. And I think that's what he's afraid of.
you can't risk it unless
Yeah.
you get near the goal line and you think you're not going to get hit, then it's fine. And it comes to the point too. It's interesting with Kyler Murray because you have to wonder, and I asked this on Instagram last night, Kyler Murray, who has not played well over the last couple of weeks, or Kirk Cousins, who has
I
been
saw
amazing.
that post.
And he's been amazing at home. Yeah, you might
Right.
have even commented on it or sent me a note or something. And it's like, I know that your instant reaction is like, I'm playing Kyler no matter what. But should you? Like, I don't know. Like, it's always a risk. But Kirk Cousins has been playing terrible. And I make jokes about Kirk Cousins like anybody else. I think, was it me who called him the Bud Light Lime of NFL quarterbacks? Maybe. Maybe. But at the same time, it's
drag
like
up a Zima reference for that one.
trying to stay current.
I understand. Exactly. Yes.
The millennials, like, I'm already reaching with the Beastie Boys reference. Although I will tell you this, not too long ago, one of my neighbors who's a Gen X, this isn't Gen X, she's millennial. I was going to say Gen Z. I don't know how, she's not 30, but she looked at me and she's like, I don't know if you've ever heard this song by the Beastie Boys called No Sleep Till Brooklyn. And I'm like, no, tell me about it. How does it go?
Can I tell you, I still come out on stage to Sabotage.
Yeah, you should. It's such a great song. Like, it's
such a rocking song and such a great, it just murders it. I just love the energy of it, and I think we come out to it quite frequently.
I think that's one of the things that I noticed about when we performed together. Like, our songs were on, because you go Sabotage, I go Remedy by the Black Crowes.
Oh, another one of my all-time favorites. Oh my God. Can I tell you a quick story?
Please.
I lived in New York during 9/11, and one of the first concerts after 9/11 was the Black Crowes at Radio City Music Hall.
Was it with them in Oasis?
No, it was just them. And it was like a special show that they booked, like, hey, New York, we're coming to help you heal. And when you see the Black Crowes, because I've seen them probably like you, like 8-9 times, yeah. and usually they jam. You gotta love the Crowes to enjoy a Crow show. But this one, you could tell they were playing for the crowd because they played all the hits. Thorn in My Pride, Remedy, Hard to Handle, which they never played the hits,
Right. Oh, no.
They're beyond the hits, but they did all the hits. And the crowd, everyone there had been so pent up for so long, from, dealing with this situation. I've never been in a room with more energy in my life. It was the greatest concert I've ever been to. As an experience, probably the greatest live experience I've ever had was that show by the Black Crowes at Radio City Music Hall in the aftermath of 9/11.
Oh, Radio City Music Hall. What a building, too.
Yeah. Oh, my God, yes. It's just the energy. You realize you're walking into a cathedral.
Yes.
No, it really is something else. It is a religious experience. Now, talking about this season, we're heading into the playoffs. And what player do you think is going to be, like last year, it was Lamar and Christian McCaffrey. Those are the guys that were probably on the most championship teams. And what players, players do you think are going to be on the most championship teams? I would have said Kyler Murray immediately, but with the injury lately, who do you think it's going to be?
Well, unfortunately, I believe it's going to be Aaron Rodgers is probably going to do pretty well for you. I was in a situation in my league of record where I had Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Because I drafted him because for whatever reason, people were like, Aaron Rodgers is washed, blah, blah. I'm like, you know what? Last year, Aaron Jones scored 19 touchdowns, which he's not going to do again. Aaron Rodgers is going to go and reclaim some of those touchdowns, and you guys are idiots if you're not taking a guy who's on a team that didn't draft a wide receiver and drafted his replacement in the first round. Like, it's lunacy.
Yeah, and he was a bargain, too. You could get
him in the
10th round, 11th round.
So easy. Well, and the good part about it, too, is I picked up Justin Herbert. So I traded Aaron Rodgers 2 weeks ago, which I didn't necessarily want to do, but I wanted DK Metcalf because I needed DK Metcalf.
Yeah, good trade.
So, I mean, I could have had Herbert on my bench doing nothing, but I'll start Herbert and I'll play, hopefully Rodgers doesn't knock me out of the playoffs, which I told my friend, I know I'm going to end up losing to you in the playoffs because Rodgers is going to throw for 4 touchdowns the game that I play you. But I think that he's got a really good playoff schedule. I really like Austin Eckler coming back. Anytime you have these running backs who are starting to come back, who have been off for a long time. And I like the I like the Chargers schedule. Like, it's crazy to me. It was RotoViz, and not to call them out, but they said that Justin Herbert had the third hardest playoff schedule. And I'm like, that doesn't seem right. I looked, I'm like, they've got the Falcons, who admittedly have been playing better defensively.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not fearing the Falcons if I have Justin Herbert.
Right.
They have the Raiders. You're like, yeah, I'm not doesn't concern me at all. They've got the Broncos, but that's a home game. So that's in the dome. Like, what am I fearing with Justin Herbert? Like, there's nothing about this that I feel really bad about. And then there's some other guys too. The Browns defense is one that I think, again, go back, watch the secondary market. If DeAndre Swift gets healthy, like his year is, his end of the year is going to be pretty good. I fear this in another league of mine, my second city league. And I was desperately trying to knock my friend out of the playoffs because I've already assured my spot. And he's like, bro, like, why are you trying so hard with your team? I'm like, I don't want to see your team in the playoffs because you have Derrick Henry and his playoff schedule's stupid. Like, he's going to score 60 points a game over the playoff run. And then he's got DeAndre Swift. And I'm like, bro, your two running backs could end up being the top two scoring running backs of weeks 14, 15, and 16. Like, that's a combination that might not be able to be handled. And then I like guys like Antonio Gibson. It's always the guys who you didn't put a lot of draft stock into that you end up finding. Like, Antonio Gibson's going to be one of those guys. You also have James Robinson. Like, every week, people are wondering, when's it going to end? When's the magic going to stop?
I don't want to even talk about it.
Why not? What happened? Did you trade him?
I didn't just trade him. I dropped him because I thought this was week, I think 4 or 5. I had him. He had the one big opening game, right?
Yeah.
And then he had 2 or 3 like just okay games.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had made it a trade for Kenyon Drake.
Yeah.
And he had just had the big game against Dallas with 126 yards. And Lev Bell, I had Lev Bell, who had just gotten traded to Kansas City, where CEH had been struggling. So I thought that he was going to take over that role over there, and I had to make room somewhere. And so I was like, well, I guess between those 3, I would drop, I wound up dropping James Robinson and it wound up, it's a regrettable move for sure.
You need to, I know that you're being nice and you don't want to bother me during the season. Please, next time, call me before you make a move. I'm sure, like, you watched the show, that we've been talking about James.
The thing is, it was that week after I dropped him that he ended up having another explosive game, and he kind of, from then on, has remained on that track.
Yeah.
And it was just this weird collusion of events where Kenyon Drake had just had his best game and looked like that was going to be his season. And Lev Bell just got traded to the Chiefs and looked like we were in store for a revival. The revival I've been waiting on for 3 seasons, And so I thought, this is it. And it was not it. And now, I made that was a big mistake. And another mistake I made, another huge, I'm addicted to the waiver wire. That's my problem. I love but I picked up Herbert, right? Yeah. I have Herbert, has an incredible game. I'm on this little podcast. I'm telling everybody, listen, keep Keenan Allen. Don't, get Keenan Allen. This guy can get the ball to Keenan Allen. I've seen it. I believe in this guy. And then Anthony Lynn goes out there and goes, look, to be clear, this is Tyrod Taylor's team. As soon as he's ready, we're putting Herbert back on the bench. He said that.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And I believed him.
Never believed the coach.
Oh my God. And I dropped Herbert.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This has been bad for you.
It's been a lot more harsh reality than fantasy football for me.
I really believe, it had to work out in my favor that Aaron Rodgers' bye week was early enough in that stretch to where I didn't drop Justin Herbert, that I might have benefited from something like that. Because I got him in a couple of leagues, like a couple of important leagues, and I don't like carrying 2 quarters. I think it was, number one, I think it was the COVID season of, I always want to make sure this was the first year that I carried 2 tight ends, that I carried 2 quarterbacks. I mean, carrying Dallas Goedert for a lot of weeks for no reason. And then on Monday night, like I needed a miracle on Monday. I know nobody cares about it. Like, I don't care about your team, but I was down 13. My friend had Chris Carson, but I had Goddard and DK Metcalf and caught him and beat him. And I'm like, and watching it, and listen, download and play the NFL fantasy app. But I have a friend in our league of record who has, he works for Yahoo. So we're on Yahoo. And the Yahoo with their point production, for anybody who plays it, it's like, I go into that game like a 36 point,
they have the percentage of win.
And then then it swings. And then when Chris Carson scores that touchdown, it goes up to, I'm now like, he's got a 66% chance of winning. And then Dallas Goedert scores and it's 51-49. And then whatever. And I didn't knock him out of the playoffs. I got a lot of people into the playoffs because he was a fringy person that could have caused a quagmire had he won.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were texting me this week. They're like, hey, thanks for knocking off Dave. And Dave actually is a friend of ours. And they're like, oh, thanks for knocking him off. I'm like, yeah, I know. You guys owe me. Like, I should get some sort of bonus. If I don't win the league, I should get that. Because he's one of those guys who's got the team that had, like, somehow he had Barkley and who else would have been a great one who got injured late. But like some sort of craziness of, like, great players. He had Fuller. And so now he's losing Fuller. So he's done. So
right.
But yeah,
sometimes you have a cursed season like that. And it seems like you're the only one taking bullets. And everybody else is fine, and your players are dropping like flies. And you're like, can you go visit somebody else's team, please, instead of just ruining my season?
No, for sure.
How many leagues are you in?
Yeah, I'm in 20 plus.
20 plus, okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of charity things that I sign up for, and you're like, oh, this will be fun. And then you're like, hey, bro, you keeping track of this team? I'm like, I thought it was a best ball league.
Right.
I'm so sorry.
I thought it was a set it and forget it.
There's if you do the there's a service that we have on the NFL fantasy app called Fantasy Plus that you can actually set it that will make sure that you never play somebody who's not starting. Like it'll always put the optimal lineup in there for you. So as long as you have like multiple players at every position, you can just hit like set it forever and then go and check back every once in a while if you have an injured player or something.
Well, and that's the thing with the Comedians League, because some of them I have in just because they're fun comedians more than they're fantasy footballers. And I tell them, I'm like, listen, just hit the optimize button because we're in the NFL app. That's the one we use for that league. And I tell them, just hit the optimize button. That's all you got to do. Just open it, boop, that's it. You're done. You know, and it's amazing that I sometimes have to remind them to do that. But it's just and even this year, it's actually been, I haven't had to do it at all. You know, in the first two seasons, I had to do a little bit more, but now everybody's pretty engaged. It's a pretty fun league, man. It's pretty amazing. But now of those 20 plus leagues, how many of them mean something to you? How many of them do you actually like you're emotionally engaged in? Two, right?
And okay. I won't identify them because the people.
That's fine. Yeah, everyone wants to believe they're in one of those two.
There's about 10 leagues that people are like, you really care about this one, right? I'm like, yeah, I do.
You're like, yes, you're like a guy with too many girlfriends.
A little bit, yeah.
I know you love me. It's like, you know, you are the one I see the most. Be right back.
Well, I coined the phrase League of Record, which that can be traced back to me. Like, I know that
because I use that phrase now to identify the league that got me into it versus the one that I created later.
That's all me. That one I can take because I still try to claim things like I invented the phrase drunk dialing and crop dusting, which is like, it's nebulous. Like, I don't know, Rank. Like, that's somebody across this great land of ours could have thought of those phrases. Maybe. Don't have quite the claim, but saying League of Record in the fantasy space, I think I'm pretty comfortable being able to claim like I'm the person who started this phrase. And it's kind of like, I'm going to sound like such a douche, but it's like, it is kind of cool when I hear like, if I'm listening to Sirius XM and some dude's on there, if it's Bob Harris who's talking about his League of Record, I'm like, God damn it, I know where he got that. Like it's fun. I'm not mad. It's not like somebody stole my joke, but it's just like, oh my God, like I said something that people are like, oh, I like Rank, and I'm going to kind of repeat this thing because I've been saying it since 2009 or 2010 or whatever. So that is my thing, and like I have that league of record. And it always comes down to the people that you've known the longest. I'm in a league where
Absolutely.
we've known these guys since, I mean, a lot of these guys I've known since first grade. Like there's only one person who I didn't at least go to high school with.
Okay, right.
Most of these guys,
lifelong buddies.
So there's 4 guys who went to the same elementary school.
Jeez.
And then there's 2 more. Deep. There's 2 more who joined us at the junior high level. And then all but one of them, we all went to Corona High in Corona, California. And there's one guy who did it, but he lives out there and whatever. I kind of don't like him. He's kind of like well, not that he's the only one, but he's like, he's also, he voted for a different person than I voted for in the election, and that's caused some friction. If you follow me on Twitter, it'll be easy to identify which side I'm on. But it's crazy, and it goes even deeper because there's another subgroup of guys who are all from St. Matthew's Catholic Church, and I'm the only Presbyterian. But it's like, oh, and like, so these guys have known each other since St. Matthew's Catholic Church. But I've known the DePaulo brothers since 3rd grade. Even though we didn't go to elementary school, we played youth league basketball since the 3rd grade. So there's these different things. And it's funny. It's kind of like Big Brother, where you have these different alliances and everybody's just, there's the guys I grew up with that grew up on Applegate. There's the guys who, that were, that they were in this part, like they're the church, they're the St. Matthew's people, or there's the liberals, there's the conservatives, there's the Rams fans, there's the Bears fans. Like, it's crazy, like how many different ways this thing gets sliced up. But it is the one that I care about the most. And I have Derrick Henry in that league. Yeah. I was going against Derrick Henry in another important league.
That's the toughest part about being in multiple leagues.
But I knew which one I cared about the most because I was rooting for Derrick Henry. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care.
Exactly. I don't mind losing over there. I have to win right here.
I got to win this one.
Yes.
Got to win this one. Plus, it's also the thing of like in the other one, I'd already clinched my playoff spot and I'm almost assured of a bye. Yeah. Don't want to speak too soon, but but the other one, I was still fighting for something. My league of record, I'm still fighting for something. I'm clinched now, but yeah. Well, actually, I still got to play for the bye. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things going on.
There you go. For me, I think a lot of owners are hoping that the way the Eckler thing happened, I think I'm a McCaffrey owner, and I'm hoping that we see that happen after week 13 with McCaffrey going into the playoffs. You get Christian McCaffrey back, and what happened with Eckler happens with him, and that's. You're good. You're going to have a run probably, and I mean, and then there's rumors that they may just shut him down for the season, and I try to ignore those rumors.
I don't even listen to that. Yeah. He's a football player. He doesn't want to do like those guys don't want to hear that. Like they don't want to hear like, shut it down. He wants to play, and he wants to play well. So I think that he'll go out there. Maybe he doesn't play week 17, which is fine. Which we don't play fantasy in week 17 anyway. So let's do that. Let's do that. But I think these guys still want to go out and win. They want to compete.
Yeah.
And it's always like he's close. Like last week, it seemed like there's a chance Christian McCaffrey can play. But I even said, like, there's a bye week coming up. They're going to wait.
Right. It made sense. I'm looking at him like, why would you put him in? You could just wait, let him rest over the bye week, and then he's really actually better. By the time I felt the same way. I mean, selfishly, I was like, please put, but I knew, I was like, no, you're not going to do that. It makes no sense to go in there, bang him up some more, and then he's not a fully healed after the bye week because you have to have the bye week. So it made no sense. I will say this. I love listen, I'm a Cowboys fan. You're a Bears fan. Neither team is having the best season. But your commitment to the Bears gear, I love your commitment to wearing Bears gear. Yeah, exactly. You got it behind you. You wear it in the videos on the app when you make your individual little player videos.
Do you watch those? You watch player stories? Oh, cool.
I do watch those. And can I tell you? Let me ask you this. Okay, here's a question, and this is about television production because obviously I watch it as someone that's also in television, so I'm watching the way it's produced, and I'm like, I wonder. Okay, did a producer tell you try to smile?
No, that's it. I mean, but we do TV enough, and you know what the screen grab's going to look like if you don't smile.
Right.
So yeah. So I always put because we film it off an iPhone.
Right.
So I have it up, and then right before I hit play, I smile. That's
Okay,
what
right.
that's what I want. That's what
And the
people
thing is,
think.
I noticed that you open and close smiling, and that it's a deliberate thing. And I didn't know if it was your choice or if the producers were like, "Listen, you're coming off a little angry, Rank. You're coming off
Yeah.
a little salty. Can you give us a couple more smiles just on the way in and on the way out?"
No,
So
you self-produce that, I mean, we do this enough.
yeah,
And it's funny too, because last year, and this is probably, people don't care about production of player stories on the NFL fantasy
I know.
app,
Like it's probably only something
but
that an actor would recognize that works in
right.
television.
But the thing is, I just want to let everybody know the amount of thought that goes into this. I know you might watch and be like, Rank sucks, and he told me that Patrick Mahomes was going to be good and he sucked, so it's Rank's fault. Like, I'm not the one throwing the football. I'm just telling you that the matchup's good. That's all dependent on the rest of them.
Yeah.
Like, people who are like, you lost me this week. It's like, bro, I didn't throw that interception. I didn't make the wrong read. Like, I can only tell you that the matchup's good or not. Like, I'm doing that legwork for you, so you don't have to. I mean, if you want to spend a lot of time, and then you still come to these forks in the road where you're like, well, this matchup seems pretty good, but these are human beings playing a game. Imagine that. It's not 100% fallible.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. But for these things, and I know that we had a big question about this coming into this season, because this is obviously like something that, for our marketing team and our production, like, they want to hit certain numbers of, like, we want this many views, we want to generate like this, we want to do everything. So last year we had a bigger team, and this goes back to, I think, the question that we were talking about at the beginning about, like, how much work, like being the guy, how hard is it? We lost a lot of the periphery people who would post player stories and stuff like that and be able to do that for us. Because last year I would never do this, although some people did help me out, but I was always of the mind, like, I'll post these myself. Actually, no, I take it back. That's not true. Last year, somebody posted these for me. Somebody filmed these for me. We had a camera set up, and I don't know if I brought you up to the fantasy lounge. I don't know what part of the studio that you saw, but we had a dedicated space for it, and somebody would film it for us and upload it. So we had a huge, like, meeting before the season. We were wondering about it, and I said, look, I go, this is still a priority for us. We still have a lot of, like, teach me how to do it. How hard is it? How hard is it to do this?
Yeah.
And, they're like, well, like, here are the steps. And then number one, what it did was, first of all, make me embarrassed, because last year we had Kimmy Checks doing it. Kimmy Checks used to be one of the people who uploaded. Like, talk about somebody who's working their way.
Wow. So she was already in-house?
She was in-house. She was a behind-the-scenes person. We put her on Fantasy League One once, and she went on there and was so good. Like, it's almost like somebody walking into an open mic for the first time and being excellent, and you have to fight the comedian's urge to try to ruin that person's spirit.
Totally, exactly.
Or
just take it down a few notches. Like, you're too good, too natural at it.
Be like, she's top, like, just start gossiping or doing something.
Exactly. She's getting by on her looks, dude.
But yeah. I went up to our producer at the time, a man named Justin Harvey, who was running League One, and I said, bro, I go, I don't know if you saw what I saw, but I cannot imagine anybody coming into this situation and doing better than she just did. And he was like, no, I feel the same way. And so she's doing it because she's good. But there were people who believed, like, saw the talent and believed in it. So she went from somebody who was holding an iPhone, recording idiots like me, putting it up on the internet, to now being the person on. But we did a thing before the season, and I said, teach me how to do it. And there's nobody who does more of those than me. And I said, I don't want to burden anybody. I know everybody's working at home, because, like, you can slack them to. I'm like, show me how to do it, and I'll do it. If it takes me a couple of extra, because I do a lot of mine on Friday and Saturday. You'll probably notice. I said, I'll do it. Like, I'll do it. This is important, and I'll do it. And that kind of stuff is where you do it. And, you got to self-produce it. You got to do a good shot.
Yeah.
You want to make sure the lighting's correct. My face is always, like, my face has been so dry because I don't know. I don't get the makeup treatment anymore. I got to do that.
Yeah.
But it's like, trying to set up a shot and doing whatever, that you keep in mind, like, make sure you come in on a smile, leave on a smile. People are coming in. They traditionally, or you would figure they've seen me before and know me and know my kind of style of stuff. And they're just like, okay, cool. Like, this is Rank. And, you know, and people have been pretty positive. What the coolest thing about that, and again, I know nobody cares about this stuff, but I'm going to tell you anyways, because now I've got the mic and I'm not, but when people tweet me and they'll say like, hey, I was watching Fantasy Stories this week and I noticed that you said Taysom Hill and Josh Allen are both starts. Who do you like better? And you're like, God, this is amazing. Thank you. That you watched on one platform and said, I've got to go to this other platform to reach out for you. And I'll try to answer as many questions as humanly possible. But it's been really cool. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about, like what it feels like to be, you know, the person or whatever. And I think that, you know, it's still fun, you know? Do you know Steve Lemmy, by the way?
I don't think so.
Tacoma FD, Super Troopers.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Like I was chatting with him on Twitter. Like we struck up a Twitter conversation one time, and it's just talking about the gig and you know this as well as anybody, you know, like, you know how hard it is when you appear on shows. Like when you were on Superstore, the amount of work that goes into it. I know people think that, oh, I saw you there. You were interacting at the help desk and whatever. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Like there's a lot of waiting around. There's a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But you can't imagine doing anything else. Like it's a lot of work. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of downtime and stuff like that. But you can't imagine doing anything else. And I think that's kind of where I am. Like
you're great. Listen, you're great at it. And when I see the circle lit up gold around a player on the app, I'm excited. I'm like, oh, what are they going to say? You know, is there new information? You know, I look forward to it. I get jazzed. It's like bonus content. It's deleted scenes. I don't know. I love it. It's good stuff, man. It really is. Where are we? I had a couple of questions really quickly. Oh, and well, actually, we kind of already touched on it, but okay. How much when you, and I don't know if you call them predictions or recommendations. I don't know what you consider it when you make these calls. But then when one of them goes wrong, I mean, how much shit do you get on Twitter and how much of it affects you? Because just the shit I get from, you know, the little bit I get online and the little bit I get from my own leagues, like the majority of my viewers are the other guys in my leagues who want to know I think they just want to see if I'm talking about them in particular.
Right.
But I get so much shit when you know, about some kind of comment. I'll be like, you want to play this guy? And then, of course, he sucks. And then, you know, Greg, you're so fucking stupid. And it's like, and I'm like, if that's the little bit I get and I feel it, like, how do you deal with that kind of, how much of it do you get and how do you deal with it?
It is, you never want to get it wrong. And I will say that I know when I have advocated for a player and let's say it's DJ Moore or somebody like that. Oh, right. Hollywood Brown is probably the best of a guy here. Like, I'm into Hollywood Brown, blah, blah, blah.
I was too.
It really guts me. It's like, it's my team. Like, I'm really upset about this. If I've told somebody to start somebody and they don't play well, it bums me out to the point of it's almost not fun. Like, even like this week, clinching a playoff spot in my league of record and knocking off one of my nemesis. Like, there's still that tinge of like, oh, but I told somebody to play this with. Thankfully, this last week wasn't too bad. Like, there wasn't a lot. I can't really think of it, but there's been times where I've made huge misses, and it does bum me out. And I know that people are counting on me. And I think for the most part, the vast majority of people are like, yeah, I understand it's a game. Like, there's only so much you can control. Exactly. There's nothing. I think what happens is sometimes people look at fantasy analysts like movie critics. Like, I've already watched the game and I'm coming back and reporting on it.
I know. They take it so they're like, oh, you fucking stupid. It's like, I was looking at the pieces and I was saying that this is what it looks like to me. They hadn't played the game. That's why they play the game.
Like, if you hadn't seen a game from week 12 and I'm like, whatever you do, don't play Will Fuller or Antonio Gibson this week, knowing full well how many points they scored, then I would be an asshole. Yes, that is the truth. This isn't like I saw episode 9 and came out and told people it was a good movie. Like, that's not what, like, I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen. if they do not play well, I'm as disappointed as you are. Like most people I think are on board with that, but other people just want to go online.
Yeah.
They want to be mad. And there's a no consequence of what you're saying on Twitter a lot of the time. Not for
That's
us.
the worst part about it.
Like we're like public figures. So like people, like we can't go on Twitter and call people douchebags. Maybe the president, but like most of the time you can't go on and like say really mean things to person because like it'll affect us, it'll affect our work. But a lot of people, but even that, like it just doesn't happen a lot. And now what you get more and more of too is people standing up for you. And there's like somebody the other day, like I had some post and some guy who I'm sure was not trying to be mean. I think he was doing it tongue in cheek. I think obviously because I come off as, kind of kidding a lot of the time, sarcastic, whatever. If somebody's like, oh, let's talk about the 49ers being 3-13, like I won't take that in a bad way, especially if the person follows me, then I feel like, okay, he's just trying to have a laugh. Like he doesn't mean anything by it. But then the people who come in and swing on him and be like, Dick, like Rank has been so cool. He's taken it with such grace. Back off. And to the point where I almost want to defend the original poster. Like, I think he was being cool. Like, I don't think he was being real malicious. Like he wasn't saying terrible things about my family. Like,
right. I'm not taking it that bad. You don't need to take it that bad either.
Appreciate you. Thank you for sticking up for me. I really do. I really do appreciate that. But I think like it's been cool. And I've been able to mute people. I've muted the word Titans out of my Twitter feed, and it's made my life better because their fans just are so angry. Like they have such a chip on their shoulder, and they've come after Colleen Wolfe, who is like one of the nicest people in the world.
That's crazy.
And the other day on Good Morning Football, she changed her pick. She's like, I want to pick the Titans now, blah, blah, blah. And I came on, and I don't know if I got her in trouble or if I got somebody in trouble. I'm like, hey, Colleen, like the Titan fans are never going to let you live it down, so you might as well pick against them. Like, it doesn't matter. There's nothing we can do to appease them, so what do we care? But for the most part, like those people, whatever. And I think as long as if you're transparent and you're not overly defensive, when I know sometimes it sounds like I'm being defensive, but I'm like, but I'm not. I'm just like, dude, I don't throw the football. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not the one who gets to dial up the jet sweeps for Bobby Trees at the goal line. Like, that's not my job. I can only tell you that, in the last 4 games against the Cardinals, he's averaged over 15 fantasy points. I don't know if you want to continue on that trend, then play him. Like, that's what I'm telling you. It's like blackjack. Like, people get mad at the dealer at blackjack. Like, you're just turning over the cards. What does the book say? Well, stand on a 16 if the dealer's got a 6 or less. Hit on a 16 if they have a 7 or higher. Like that, you're not guaranteed to win, but you're giving yourself enough of an edge so that you're erasing the house edge. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help you reduce the house edge as much as possible. But every once in a while, the dealer's going to pull out an 8-card blackjack and you're going to lose. So I'm sorry when that happens, but there's nothing I can do to control that.
Can I tell you, on Thanksgiving, I was playing against a guy who had both Will Fuller and Antonio Gibson.
Those are two of my guys.
And he's a Washington Redskins fan. Ooh, that was a
double
rough
whammy.
Day. That was a rough day, boy. Woo! But then, and this is what I hate about Thursday leads. Thursday leads, in my opinion, are a mirage. His projection was out of control at that point. He had, I think, 70 points from just those 2 players, something like that. And then his team shit the bed on Sunday, and he ended up, like, his projection was 178, and he finished with 115. And it was just, I mean, I was like, whoa, man, this is, woo! Those Thursday leads, can't trust them. Fool's gold. They look. But on the upside, you do get to walk around for 2-3 days, 2 days.
Oh, you're a G, yeah.
Totally feeling like a champ. You're
a G.
You waking up Sunday morning like, let's finish the jump gun.
You're just strutting around like, what's up, bitch?
I'm Gibson. Oh my God. I basically conceded the game too. I was like, you got this one. Let's be honest. Come Sunday, you're going to finish the job. I was surprised as anybody about that. Now, really quickly, is there any trade that you're particularly proud of this season, that you wish you'd taken this season, or that you're particularly ashamed of this season? Like one trade that might stick out in your mind as fuck or fuck yeah.
Well, I do want to harken back to getting DK Metcalf for Aaron Rodgers, which seems like, I don't know if I would have made that trade, but I had Justin Herbert still.
Right.
I needed a wide receiver. I think I'm going to work out. I think that's going to work out pretty good. My team is so dynamic now. And so that's why you build depth like that. I traded Alexander Madison for Tyler Boyd at one point, which worked out. Which, if Joey Burrow was still the quarterback,
right,
that would be one of the most incredible trades. And I felt great about that one because I was scooping up all these guys because my running backs were terrible. So I was scooping up all the secondary ones.
All the backups, yeah.
I did get, who was the dog S player I got for Antonio Gibson? That was good. It might have been a different league where, again, it was, because then another time I picked up Mike Davis. Oh, I did trade with one of those 1 week guys that I traded for CD Lamb that ended up not working out for me, where you're like, oh, that was kind of a miss. Oh, I think it might have been Mike Davis.
But CeeDee Lamb, was on a trajectory to have an amazing season, and next season should have an amazing. Is again, as
it is a key fan, yeah.
That Dak Prescott, and I knew immediately his foot was broken. It was turned the wrong way, and it was completely still.
Oh yeah.
And anytime it's completely still, that sucker's snapped. Yeah. And I knew right away. I was like, that's it. I was like, and I just jumped up and was yelling. I was like, his foot's broken. His foot's broken. And, my wife, she's sitting there. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, his foot broken. His foot broken. Look, watch it break. I knew it immediately. Yeah. And, luckily, the Amari Cooper's still been pretty productive, even with Dalton and some of the other guys.
No, he's been good. He's been good. Yeah. But I think that, but again, like long term, because I'm going to be able to keep CeeDee Lamb. So I think that's going to work out pretty well for me. But, that was one. I was like, okay, I was making these smaller trades. There was another one. You know what I did a couple of weeks ago? Who was it? So I thought that I was out of a race. And one of my friends was like, I want Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And he goes, I will give you Justin Herbert. And I forget who else. The pieces weren't really important. I just had to give up Clyde Edwards-Helaire and like Derek Carr.
Yeah.
But I got Justin Herbert. And this is a team that has Austin Eckler returning. And he goes, I want either Clyde Edwards-Helaire or I want Antonio Gibson. And I'm like, I'll give you CEH. I'm not giving you Antonio Gibson. And this past week.
Wow, that is a balls move, my man.
I had the Will Fuller. I had Will Fuller with Antonio Gibson. So I won. I got a win this week. The playoffs started for me week 12. So I'm in the play. I've basically been in the playoffs because I'm playing my way in.
Right.
So I've got to figure out this thing for week 13, but I've got Austin Eckler, who is kind of a nice surprise.
Yeah.
And so I just got to find another receiver. I'll go pick up Kiki QT. Or do whatever. But getting Justin Herbert for a song, that was pretty nice. I did have an interesting one in Matt Cole's comedy league where somebody offered me DeAndre Hopkins straight up for Terry McLaurin, which I had to take a lot of time to invest. This was before the season started.
Yeah.
But I had to investigate. I'm like, did DeAndre Hopkins die? Like, what happened? But the guy said no. And I go, okay, fine. And he's been, worked out how whatever.
I mean, when he's hot, he's hot.
Yeah.
And when he's cold, he's ice cold. It's weird.
And it goes back to Kyler's shoulder being a little bit.
It is exactly. It's tied completely to the Kyler shoulder thing, which I think is a bigger problem than they're letting on. So,
but I was of the mind, like where I drafted Terry McLaurin, I'm like, why didn't you just take Terry McLaurin? You could have had DeAndre and Terry McLaurin. Like that would have been better than trading straight up. So I don't know why you're crowing about it, but.
Well, in week 2, right before week 2, a guy in my league of record, thank you for that phrase. That's how we know we were talking about the league that means the most to you. He offered me Kareem Hunt for Hollywood Brown. And I know, but at the time we were expecting a big season from Hollywood Brown.
Oh, no.
And Kareem Hunt was the clear number 2 back. And so I turned it down. And that was one of the ones I wish I'd taken.
Man.
Yeah. Would have been
nobody offers.
That team's still doing pretty well. They've got good running. They've got Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey. So they're doing okay.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
You're
so if McCaffrey
right.
comes back, I should have a decent run through the playoffs.
Yeah. Just pretend he's going to. It would be garbage.
My whole season depends on it.
Yeah, same. Like, I need him back for it.
Yeah, especially now that Deshaun Watson. What do you think Deshaun's prospect? How do you think they're going to change? I mean, it was tough, building what he had with DeAndre Hopkins, with Will Fuller. Now Will Fuller's gone. I mean, I had in that same league with those two guys. I have Deshaun Watson, who's been amazing for me down this stretch. But now, I mean, do you think he's going to drop precipitously?
Yeah, I went back and looked. The numbers with and without Will Fuller don't change significantly, like 24 to 22. The only problem is like Will Fuller's played this whole year. So those numbers you're drawing from are when DeAndre Hopkins was on the field. So this might be a situation. It's going to end up being a situation. Although I do, the one guy I'm looking forward to seeing if he can step up is Duke Johnson, because I think that him as a pass catching back out of the backfield, because if you think about that 25%, it's roughly 25% target share. That's got to go somewhere. I don't know if Kiki QT is going to be the guy who ends up taking all of it, but if they can give some of that to Duke Johnson, I think that could be a real problem for a lot of teams. And even when David Johnson even does come back, if they start using Duke Johnson in the slot or something like that, I think that could be pretty cool. So
that would be cool. And I could see them doing that because they need to open some guys up and he can catch. I could see them doing that. Absolutely. Because they apparently David Johnson has a chance to return this week. So
yeah,
it'll be very interesting to see how that all works out. I hope they do keep them both on the field. And I think they kind of have to now. So
absolutely.
Well, man, listen, this has been an absolute delight, man. You are the best there is. It's always super fun to talk to you, especially when we get to talk fantasy football. And thank you very much for giving me an hour of your time. I know how super busy you are, my man. So thank you.
No, my pleasure.
Listen, 2021 is going to be a different year. Maybe we get back out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what? We were planning to go back out to Chicago this year. I think the Beat Kitchen. And then, I think some of the smaller venues that we started hitting towards the end, like doing the Yoo-Hoo Room and things like that.
I think we should. Exactly. I want to look at, and also if we plan it out in advance, we could do the routing a lot smarter and a lot better. And, again, working with smaller venues that are going to be easier to grab a hold of. I think it could really turn into, I think next year could be an amazing time.
Yeah, I know. And like working with radio stations too. That's what we got to do. That was the key. Yeah. Because the Tampa one would have worked if we would have been able to get down there. I think that was poised to be big. And if we can just go through and just go of the mind of like, let's just paper the room the first couple times and then see what happens. But
absolutely,
it'll be cool. Get back out there.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, man. You're the best. Always great to see you. Always great to talk to you, man. Have a great rest of the season.
Thank you. Happy anniversary, 6 months too late.
Take care, buddy.
Damn it. All right. Thanks, bud.
Bye.